Welcome back to the Shine Within podcast. I have a special guest here. She is my celebrity. I know she's interviewed multiple celebrities, but her name is Cat Greenleaf. She is the host of the powerful podcast Soberness, where she dives into raw, real conversations about addiction, recovery, and what it means to be human in the messy middle. Known for her bold honesty and deep empathy, Cat invites listeners to explore sobriety without perfection, make peace with shame and rage, and rewrite their recovery on their own terms. Before launching Soberness, she created and hosted NBC's Talk Stoop, where she interviewed hundreds of public figures, an experience that shaped her gift for drawing out hard truths with grace. Today, she uses that same gift to guide nuanced, cross-cutting conversations that meet people exactly where they are. And Kat, it's such an honor to have you on my show. I'm so excited. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'm excited too. I'm happy we're doing this on Zoom because on the Zoom calls, as opposed to Riverside, which is the remote program that we use, on Zoom, I can hide my self view, which feels very important to me. I really don't like looking at myself while I'm doing these. Do you?
My gosh. So I on Riverside, I've been guest on podcasts too, and I'm just like, I'm talking to myself.
Yeah.
Hi Gina, how are you doing today?
Right,
You know,
right.
so yes, that's why I
Yes.
love I love Zoom also because everyone knows Zoom. People are like, "What's Riverside?" I don't mind it, but like I get like I'm a guest there and I'm like looking at myself and talking. I'm just like, "Hi
Yeah.
Gina." Yeah,
I know it's such a weird
yeah.
feeling. So here I hide my self view. Now all I see is you. And I love
Oh,
that.
that's awesome. Well, let's just go ahead and talk about your podcast and what was the inspiration to launch Soberness and how do you actually keep those conversations raw and real?
Well, so one thing that I find is so cool about sobriety, maybe you feel the same, is that if you speak to another person who's gotten sober, not necessarily a person who's never drank, but somebody who's gotten sober, there's a shared language. There's an instant familiarity. If you walk into any recovery room in the world, whether or not you're a fan of AA or a member of AA or in other types of recovery, you have similar experiences, you have similar lingo. So it's easy to have these conversations because I've been through it. My guests have been through it. No one's judging anyone. And it feels a little bit like we're picking up in the middle of a conversation. And I love that. And I find that across the board. You know, my show is a celebrity interview show about sobriety, but I also have a lot of sobriety conversations in other areas of life. I bring recovery meetings into women's prisons. I bring recovery meetings to some post-incarceration facilities, and all walks of life share the same experience of helplessness, hopelessness, losing things. And that comes through in all the conversations. So it never feels to me like, gee, how am I going to get this out of this person? Or how are we going to talk about it? Like, no, we know how to talk about it. You know, all of us who've been drunk and sober love to talk about it. But to go back to the first part of your question of how did it even come about? Let's see. So I had stopped doing Talk Stoop about let's see, at the end of 2017. And I thought I was done with broadcast. I didn't want to go back. It was a heartbreaking industry. You know, tried a million different things. And I started a nonprofit and I started working in prisons and did other stuff. And while I loved all that, I am a broadcaster. I've only ever been trained in one thing. I used to do it as a kid. I did it as a student, and I just loved making television, which is my medium. And I didn't know if I could go back. I'd been off the air for 6 years, and I was like, God, you know, I don't even know. My agent had passed away. Like it was really, I didn't know what to do. And so while I was puzzling over that, I saw two old guests from Talk Stoop on stage or on air talking about their sobriety. And I didn't know you were like allowed to do that. I thought anonymous part of I thought all sobriety meant anonymous. I don't know why I thought that, but I did. And then I heard these people, Hank Azaria and Steve Earle, talking about their sobriety. And I thought, well, geez, if they're out there talking to other people, they might as well be talking to me. And even though I do mourn and lament and miss old time TV, one great thing about where things are now is that I didn't have to go knocking on the doors of networks to let me do a show. I could literally just start it. And that's pretty much what happened. My husband and I have both been in the industry for years. So we made some calls and found some people, and I put together a really nice team. I'm 53 years old, and there are three other people on my team that are 53 and one person who's 43. And I say that because we are grown-ups, we are professionals, we've been through a lot of things, we know when to get upset and when not to get upset. And it's made it a really gratifying experience all the way around. Everyone is just really kind to each other on my team. And I can't say I was always kind to team members, and team members were not always kind to me in past shows. So this feels really good. It's just one of the many great things about being in my 50s.
Well, first off, you don't even look like you're in your 50s.
Well,
Very young.
thank you. Thank you.
Probably
Appreciate it.
from being sober, right?
Yeah, well, it didn't hurt. Everything clears up when you get sober. You lose weight, your skin looks better, your
Yeah.
eyes are clearer.
But that's just amazing, though. It's like you have your own space just to be you, and you can be, it's organic, it's you, and you have your team there, and you're all supporting each other. And I've listened to some of your podcast episodes. Guys, audience, check out her podcast. Very inspirational, very raw. I think is it Amika? Oh my gosh,
Oh,
about
Amika.
oh my gosh, her story was so powerful, touched my heart. And I was like, wow, what she is doing now is
Yeah.
incredible. So I definitely tune into
Yeah.
that audience. It's an amazing story. But
Amika Mota
yeah,
is a great one. Yeah, sorry. She's one of
no, it's
my
okay.
favorites actually. And she's not necessarily like a celebrity like most of our guests, but she was so important to me because speaking as a sober mother, speaking as someone who's been through incarceration, speaking as someone who, she unfortunately took a life when she was under the influence. And that is a type of heaviness or guilt or shame or most of us can't even fathom considering how much guilt and shame goes along with just regular addiction, and the fact that she's had to make her way in this world after creating a situation like her addiction did. She's a real survivor. And so anyway, I love talking to people who have really been through things.
Yes, yes. Now, talking about sobriety without perfection, I know this is a topic that you normally talk about. What does that actually look like in real life, and why do you think it's an important part of your message?
There's so many things that turn people off about getting sober. First of all, getting sober. You know,
Yes,
like
I know.
if you really love to drink, and I did, and I still do. I listen. A very popular sentence in recovery is, "Hi, I'm Kat, and I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic." And I don't necessarily feel grateful. I still miss it. I feel grateful that I'm alive. I feel grateful that I'm healthy. I feel, of course, grateful that my life net is way better than when I was drinking. But I loved alcohol. So giving it up was very hard for me. And it was not easy. I didn't have a white light experience. I knew from before the time that I started drinking that I was going to have to one day stop drinking. I could just feel it. I knew I loved everything about the description of alcohol, and giving it up was going to be hard, and it was. And I never, ever want to go back to early sobriety again. It was a terrible time for me. So that said, there was a lot of lying to myself and others. There were stops and starts. There were little cheats here and there. And so many people that I was in contact with during my early sobriety were very militant, and you had to be this way or that way. And if you go to AA, you have to follow it to the letter. And I, that turned me off, man. It was too harsh. I could have used I gave myself really a more stepped down theory, like first harm reduction, drinking less. And, I wasn't very good at the like, I'll only drink 2 drinks tonight. I mean, that didn't really work out. But anyway, it was a long runway that I needed. And then once I did finally put it down altogether, I kept chewing on pot gummies when I felt like I needed one. And I'm so fine with that. And my awesome husband just gave me some coffee, which is another big part of
Oh.
my sobriety.
Hey, me too, even pregnant.
Yes, even pregnant. Listen, everybody needs something, right? I mean, that baby of yours better love coffee or else.
Right.
So, so the people that told me you can't have a weed gummy if you need it, or if you have a headache, you may not take aspirin, that just sounded really rough to me. And then the more I got into sobriety and identified with sobriety and now doing the show and people talking to me about it, I realized that the absolutes make it very hard for people. And one of our unofficial taglines for our show is whatever works. And I
Mhm.
really mean that. If you don't like to get up early and meditate or hit your knees first and ask God for help, you do not have to. If you want to talk to God later in the day or not at all, that is okay too. You don't need a higher power. It helps, but you don't need it if you just don't believe in God. So there are all these orthodoxies that go along with sobriety that I find can be a real turnoff. And so it's important for me in my sobriety to keep it fluid, meaning if I decided that oh, well, here's a good example. Ugh, and I'm sure this is gonna, not everybody likes this, but let's say you've been sober 3 years and you have a glass of wine at a dinner party one night. You just have it and you don't have it again tomorrow. You didn't have it yesterday. If I was a day counter type of person, I wouldn't say you have to reset your days. I think you've still put in 3 years of sobriety. You had one drink. Who the heck cares? Just keep on going.
Yeah.
So that type of flexibility feels important to me. Listen, if I were more rigid or disciplined, maybe I'd be more successful in my life than I am. Maybe my kids would get better grades. Maybe I don't know, but it's not how I am. And we can only be how we are. And I believe in the porousness of life, the fluidity. Things can change, things can morph. Not everything can be exact. So I feel that way about life. I feel that way about faith. I feel that way about sobriety.
And I love that. Yeah, same for me. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I actually didn't even admit I was an alcoholic for like 8 years or so. I was heavily drinking. And then I
Yeah.
just thought, hey, everyone has a high tolerance.
Yeah.
Thought I had a high tolerance. What I was asking, what, you don't drink it for the vodka a day? No?
Right.
You know,
Right. I
I thought
know
that
when you're
was
drinking, you
normal.
think
That was
everybody
me.
does.
Yeah. And that was just part of my life. So it wasn't until I finally admitted in 2014 that I was an alcoholic. After that, I went to treatment in December of 2014, went 30 days there. Loved rehab. It was so much fun. So much fun. But the moment I left rehab, I went to the casino and started drinking and I was gambling. And I was like, I can go back to not drinking. It's that easy, but it wasn't that easy. I relapsed so many times. I think I've done everything.
Yeah.
I had counselors, I had AA, I have that biofeedback, I have inpatient, outpatient programs. I mean, you name it, I did it. But did it work? No, because it wasn't for me. I really had to go within and figure it out. Like, okay, Gina, you're my higher power is myself, my inner self,
Yes.
my higher wisdom, my higher
Yes.
consciousness. And I had to talk to myself and I asked myself, like, I need help. I had to ask the divine, which is in within us all, by the way.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
I got that help immediately by going to the hospital and thought I was dying, but I needed that divine intervention in order for me to recover. And then that's when I finally made that decision. Oh, I'm done. I think I'm done now after
Yeah.
so many years.
That's such an important word, decision, because really that's what sobriety is to me. One decision after the next.
Mhm.
And it's the meta decision of I am going to stop drinking, but it's the micro decision in that moment. And I am not going to pick up that drink. I am not going to say yes when that offer for a cocktail comes through. And even though, I know for many people, it's about the fellowship, and I have the fellowship behind me, or I have God behind me, or my sobriety coach behind me. It doesn't matter. I mean, it matters. It matters. It matters. Of course, it matters. But I'm just saying, it still comes down to you and your decision.
Mhm.
And I always say that alcoholism is a disease we don't ask to have, but only we can be responsible for not having it, for not being active in addiction. It's you and that decision in that moment. And I have to make that choice every day. We have alcohol in our fridge, and every day I choose to not grab for it. And it's in a way the loneliest thing about addiction that it all comes down to you. But in a way, it's also the most empowering thing about addiction is it all comes down to you.
I
So,
love that.
um, decision is my favorite word in recovery.
Yes. And what advice do you actually have for someone in that messy middle where they're not where they used to be, but yet not where they want to be either?
Oh gosh, it's so oh, our phone literally never rings. There it goes.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, the messy middle. What is the advice? You know, if you're in the middle, you're not as bad as you were. You're not as bad as you could be. So that's good. Keep that in mind, right?
I love.
You're not as bad because at least for me, it was so much about the guilt and
Mm,
why aren't I more powerful? Why am I such a loser? But it could be worse. So that's my first thing is to remind yourself that it could be worse.
right.
And the second thing is, listen, you also don't have to get sober. If you don't want to, don't get sober. You don't have to. No one's holding your feet to the fire. You have a choice of how you want to live your life. So there's not a right choice or a wrong choice, If what's happening now is that you're drinking, I need to drink through the holidays. Okay, drink through the holidays. Start on January 1st. So my advice is try to do what's least painful to get you to where you want to be. There's no one way to get sober. One of the meetings that I really love in New York is called Perry Street, and it's like a world famous AA meeting for whatever reason. I don't know. It's sort of
Oh.
like because it's the West Village and the punk rockers and the artists, and it's always been kind of a home for that. And there's a sign that said, "There's no wrong way to get sober,"
Hmm.
and I just love that. There's no right way to get sober either. There's no one way, and so I would say to anybody who's struggling, remember that you don't have to follow what someone else is doing if it's not working for you. If what someone else is doing, is working, follow right along. You have agency here. And I think that's important because I felt like there was this like governing board of sobriety and I wasn't living up to what they wanted me to be doing. And that was crazy. The only thing I had to live up to was me. And again, I don't know if I'm like the best person to be talking about this because my way of doing it was slow. It took me a long time. I didn't follow the steps in the beginning, and I didn't know what to do. Um, so I'm not sure for your listeners that I'm the smartest choice of a person to listen to, but hey, it worked for me, and I'm now 12 years without drinking,
Wow.
and my life is so much better. Um, so much better. So I'm very grateful that I don't have to go down those dark paths again. That's nice to know.
Yeah, and what was that turning point where you decided, like, you know what? I'm done with alcohol. I don't want this anymore.
My littlest son, Truman, was not quite one yet. My older son was about 3, and I didn't want them to see me drunk. There were a million billion other reasons along the way since I started drinking at 13 that I should have stopped, but that was it. I didn't want them to see me stumbling or being erratic or promising things that I wasn't going to remember. And I knew that I would because I'd had a lifetime of doing that. So for me, it was the kids.
Yeah, same. I had to think about my children and what would it be like with their mom not alive because I was that close. The doctor
Yeah.
told me when I went to that hospital that time where I was asking the divine for help and it led me to the hospital. The doctor said, if you continue drinking the way you're drinking, you're going to die within 10 years. And I was already in my mid 30s then. And I was like,
Mhm.
oh, okay. Well, then I have to make the decision not to because it wasn't just about me. I still had two little ones, 9 and 3 years old. And I
Oh
know
gosh.
the younger one, excuse me, saw everything, cops in and out of our household, because I was married before. His dad is, I don't know what his dad is doing right now, actually. I think he's still an addict. He's not in our son's life at all right now.
Sorry.
Um, but my son is thriving. And I was like, wow, he's just doing amazing. Like from what he saw and what he's gone through. And I think he had some resentment when he was in his maybe fifth, fourth grade. He just wasn't really close to me. I understood. I'm like, oh my gosh, because I probably he was living in hell, in that
Yeah.
household. His dad and I were very physical with each other. I mean, I was more physical actually with his father. And yeah, like I said, cops were in and out of the house, and he wound up going to jail, his dad. And yeah, it was just an ugly situation. But then I look
Can
at
you
him
even
now.
believe it when you look back on it
Yeah,
now? You're like, can
I'm
you
just
believe
like,
that was you roughing up your husband? Like,
I
we do
know.
crazy things, right?
It was crazy. Yes. And then I look at him now and he's just shining. Oh, and he's just doing amazing. He just got a top dog, which, so I went to Washington High School and our mascot is a husky, so he goes to my alma mater. And
Oh,
he
where do you live?
I live over in California, so in Fremont. Well, I live in San Jose,
Oh,
but the school is in Fremont.
I know it so well. I started my career out there.
Oh, really?
At
Oh,
KGO News Talk FM,
oh
and I used to fly out of
wow.
the Hayward Airport to do the
Yes.
traffic.
Oh my
I did the traffic in a
goodness.
little plane. Yeah,
Oh, what's so neat?
I lived
Yeah,
over there.
yeah. So the Bay Area, but you're currently in New York or the East
Coney
Coast?
Island. Yep,
Okay,
Brooklyn.
nice,
Yeah,
nice. Yeah.
love it.
So yeah, so he's just doing amazing. He was in water polo, captain of his team, and I'm just like, wow, okay, we can do this. I think as he
Right.
sees me change, and brought me to tears that he actually wrote this letter to me saying to my favorite person, I'm so proud of you. I mean, he remembers everything, and so he's 17 now, and like, oh my baby, I love you.
Yeah, 17. Wow. Yeah, and look
Yeah,
what you gave him through your sobriety,
yeah, wow.
this life.
And same thing for you. So yeah, it's a decision. We're thinking about our children and yeah, we just want to
Yeah.
be that role model too. And it changes. Yeah. Once we transform, they start transforming too. So it's like, yes, 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 yes.
Yes, and you said it perfectly. It's about the environment you create within the home as well.
Mm.
You know, um, I know as a drinker, I would have created such chaos and such drama, and it would have been so unfair to them, And um, my sons are both adopted, and while I do not think of them that way, I will say that there's an honor to another woman entrusting you with her child's life as an adoptive mother. And I didn't feel like I was honoring that gift that I had been given by being as chaotic as I was. And whenever I do entertain, like, well, maybe I can go back to drinking, I really can't. I was given a precious gift, and to stomp on it would be bad karma. So I choose not to make the decision not to.
Yes. And I know you had talked about rage and humor before, and especially in the recovery process. How have those emotions actually personally shaped your own healing?
Well, rage, my favorite line, AA is filled with amazing slogans, but one of them is that anger is the champagne of emotions. And I will say I do indulge. Um, one of my sons and I'm sure we were like an old married couple in a past life, and we really push each other's buttons. And I've been known to get really out of control with rage. And thank God nothing physical and or like that, but the guilt, the hangover, the rage hangover is like
Mm.
so bad that I am really, really, really doing everything I can to cut that crap out. And for me, it's not meditation. That didn't really ever do it. It's not long walks. It's in the moment, remembering the hangover and how
Mm.
badly I'm going to feel afterwards. So rage continues to be my greatest challenge. Um, because once I'm in it, I'm rolling and it feels amazing. I'm so alive, right? My blood is just like boiling and that's a sick thing, man. That's how I get alive, but that is, it's the same feeling like, when that drink starts to hit and you're like, ah yeah, now we're on. Like that's how I feel when I get mad. So rage continues to be a great teacher for me. Um, and I wish people were more open about rage because I think there's a lot of shame around it, being angry. Like if you're angry about something, you might be legitimately angry. It sounds like, why are you so angry? Like it's a put down. Well, no, anger is real, just like joy is real and all of it. But just like all real things, you must stay in control. One, I must stay in control. So rage continues to be something I deal with. And I don't know if I'll ever be totally rid of that, right? I come from a long line of rageful people, and that's how I'm wired. But I continue to work on it. And humor, I mean, that is between humor and music, those are the two things that keep me really high. I think the way to stay strong and sober is to stay in our upper selves, right? When we're down in our lower selves, it's easier for substances, for bad feelings, bad people to come in, right? So the way I can stay strong is by staying high. I stay high by laughing and making other people laugh. And laughter feels like it's something I can do for the world. Like if I don't have a lot of money to send over to somewhere where people are starving, or I don't have any influence to stop a war, but what I can do in my circle and on my show is make people laugh and keep the energy high. That's when I think God can reach us, is when we are up.
Absolutely. Yeah, so going back to rage, I had a lot of rage. So I remember going to inpatient treatment, and this is before I admitted I was an alcoholic. And I remember one of the counselors came to me and she says, do you drink? And I denied it. I said, nope, I'm here for anger issues, anxiety, and depression. I totally just shunned the whole drinking idea, like, oh, I'm an alcoholic. And no, but I
That's really
had a
funny.
lot of anger issues. And now I've actually, I mean, I still get angry. I mean, like you said, when we're human beings here on Earth, and there's things that are going to still trigger us here and there.
Right. And
That's just,
should, by the way, we should be angry at some things, you know?
yes. But it's how I respond. So I used to respond with violence, like hitting and name calling and everything. You name it, I did it. Where I went to jail
Mm.
for it, actually.
Mm.
Uh, that lasted only 3 days, but still, did it teach me anything? No, because I still was angry afterward and was still doing things. But I think humor, I don't know, something about humor. Like I have so much joy when I'm laughing and it's contagious, when you're around individuals who uplift you. Yes, you're then at your highest state, which is like a ripple effect. You kind of
Yes, ma'am.
transfer all of that energy to other people where they feel it too, and it's like, yeah, I'm happy too, and yeah, yeah. Anyway, so
You know,
yeah.
oh, I was just going to say that something I've noticed about humor, or just laughter at all, I've been using it as a bit of a tool at home because, again, one of my kids and I really like, boy, every day I could find something to be really upset about. Or when I say things to him, I hear an edge in my voice that's not fair. So I just start with the laughing, and boy, does that work like a charm to just switch the energy. So something that sounds like I'm coming at you before now could be like, oh my God, we're both in this together. Isn't it crazy? And that shift has been a game changer in our household. Even if I don't feel like laughing, it's one of those fake it till you make it moments, and I
Yes.
do, and I am so grateful for it because it has de-escalated some hot moments. So you asked before about advice, like if would have any advice, it's to just kicking with that laughter, and not like, and in a way that you make sure you're not laughing at another person. But I have been very grateful for the tool of laughter in helping me navigate tense moments with my kid, for sure.
Yeah, laughter is the best medicine, they say.
Yes. And when you're feeling rageful, I mean, for both of us, right? When that rage kicks in, maybe we just try to laugh.
Mhm.
Just try to start laughing and see if that helps. Because, once you're off to the races with that rage, there's no coming back.
Yes, and that's what I've been doing lately is I get angry and I was like I laugh at myself. That's one of our family
Yeah,
rules, laugh at yourself.
you must.
You
You
have
must. That's good to
to.
hear.
Yes. So I just want to shift and talk a little bit about the reinvention process because in recovery, we're learning more and more about ourselves by trying different ways to stay sober. So I was going to go ahead and ask, like, in what ways does recovery actually force us to reinvent our identity again and again?
Well, we've taken away, at least in my case, so much of my identity was having a glass of wine in my hand.
Yeah.
So, it's always a party. And to have to bring the party, if that's the goal, without wine, that is a reinvention. Uh, socially, how do I how do I be with other people socially without drinking? So I actually had to reinvent myself as a less social person. I don't like social things as much anymore. They are boring to me. I have to work harder to have a good time. And, I'm pretty socially awkward. And so the alcohol really helped that. And so to have to feel like I have to work to be okay in social situations, I'm like, why am I doing this? I'd rather stay home and watch TV. So, so that was a reinvention, maybe not as classically like glowing as someone would think, but right. So I had to reinvent myself as less of a party person. I also had to reinvent myself. Alcohol for me was a big shield between myself and the world, between hard conversations. I could do anything as long as I was drinking. I could do anything as long as I was a little high. And so to have to finally like meet myself and decide what I will and won't do, because I don't have the shield now. So I have to just decide, am I going to embark on this conversation? Am I going to, this period of self-review got kind of exhausting after a while, but very important, very important to learn where I could and couldn't cope. And if I can't cope or don't feel like I want to cope, then I just don't. So my reinvention actually still happens, every day. When I choose to undertake different situations, not drunk, not high. Um, I guess I could also argue the reinvention is really a return to who I am.
Mhm.
You're born not drinking. You're born not thinking you need a shield. And then life happens and you want to distance yourself from it. So to be who I actually am, which I guess was the scary part, the reinvention is return, and it is refreshing, man. It is refreshing to, if I say something stupid or do something mean or whatever, at least I know it's me and it's not the alcohol. So I guess it's a reclaiming of
Mhm.
who I actually am, and that process has been both great to learn who I am and also like, ew, that's who I am. Ugh, you know. So then it's what do you want to do with that? Um, and that's something else about recovery. It's like you think that, oh, as soon as you stop drinking, the work is done. But the work is just starting.
Mhm.
The work is just starting. And in my case, I drank for a long time, you know, uh, really, let's say 12 to 42. So that's a long time. A lot of stuff to unwind, unpack. And part of it's exciting and part of it's ugly. But I think that's just life, right?
Yeah, alcohol was my best friend back in the day. So I used to be a big partier. I used to be a Jaeger girl in my 20s. I would go to
I
those bars and promote Jägermeister, playing games with the customers there, and it was
love it.
it was fun. Like I had a great time during that time partying, and I mean, I did narcotics too at that time. I'm not gonna lie, it was fun and it served me at that time until it no
Yeah.
longer served me. And then that's when
Right.
I'm like, okay, this is when I need to change. But I think we're here to experience everything. And you were so right when you mentioned that we don't actually have to be like telling people, hey, stop drinking, stop using. It's really their own personal journey. I mean, it's really up to them. And whether they hit
Yep.
rock bottom or they decide not to before they hit rock bottom, that is their journey. And I think we're all here for a reason, a purpose. And sometimes our purpose is to experience this and then get out of it on our own
And then get out of
terms.
it.
On
That's
our own
right.
terms. And
That's right.
I don't know. I don't want to get too spiritual because then there's so many versions of Gina. Like she can go different ways here. But
Go
like
all the ways, no rules.
I feel like our soul chose to live that experience, and like we've had many lifetimes. I feel so. I mean, I know that. I don't know if have you ever heard of the Akashic records?
Of course.
Yeah, so I've had mine read to me, and they're saying had this lifetime, you were this, you were this, you were murdered here. There's like, oh wow, makes sense because I feel it. They're saying you were a shaman in your past life. I'm like, awesome. That's what. So it makes sense. Everything that I'm experiencing here now makes sense, and I don't have that shame and guilt anymore. I've moved past that because I'm like, we're here just to. It's like a playground. Earth is a playground And our soul doesn't die. Our bodies do, but our soul doesn't because it won't, you can't kill us, our soul. And so I don't know, I have different views on things now. And that's why I have so much more joy than rage, is because
Yeah.
I'm here to experience, and that's okay. I'm okay experience the bad, even if it's grief. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm okay. I'm gonna be okay
Yeah.
experiencing this. And that's a big part of being happy is being able to experience everything and and it's okay. It's
So
okay, I
where do
think.
where do you find that strength?
I find that strength through my inner power. People can call it the Holy Spirit, your inner GPS, your higher consciousness, God, Gus. I say God, universe, source, whatever you want to call it. The name is not important. It is just love. And that's where we come from. So, I don't know.
Hopefully, hopefully.
Hopefully.
And if not, then go on back.
Yeah. So, oh my goodness. Can you actually go ahead and share with us one of your biggest identity shifts in sobriety and how you actually moved through it?
Yes. Give me a second. Let me think about this. Um, well, as a drinker, I was very good at covering things up and hiding, obfuscating, and making other people think things were their fault. In sobriety, I have had to put that crap down. I'm not saying I'm a perfectly honest person, but what I am saying is that I used to see myself as a shifty person who was just trying, again, like I was trying to hide my alcoholism from the world and hide my true self from myself and from everyone. And so I had to move from that into, no, I'm actually a pretty solid person. And you can trust me when I say I'm going to do something. And so that was a shift for the better, for sure. Um, and the other shift was I don't have to be the most fabulous person in the room anymore. I was a fabulist as a drinker. I wanted to, do the most, be the most, make sure everybody knew that I was the most. And now I'm just a person. And that was a bit of an ego death, because wanting to be the most shiny thing going to just being Cat Greenleaf was a big shift. And so hopefully just being Cat Greenleaf is enough for the people who love me and are close to me. I don't think the people who really love me gave a crap whether or not I was fabulous. But it took me a minute to realize that. I thought I was putting one over on everybody and that people were only my friend because I was fabulous. Really, I was drunk and falling down. So I don't think I was actually as fabulous as I thought. So the biggest identity shift was really just getting real. You know, um, I'm not a liar and I'm not the most fabulous. I'm not the world's worst person and I'm not everybody's best. I am somewhere in the messy middle and that's all right. Now that what I'm working on now in terms of identity is, all this guilt and shame has really weighed me down for a long time. And I have uh, been carrying it, for decades. And so the shift that I'm trying to hasten is to drop all that, is to get rid of that guilt and shame so that I can be present. Because for me, guilt and shame takes me out of the moment. It it makes me I'm thinking about myself and I'm thinking about uh, the dumb things I've done or blah, 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 whatever it is. I'd like to release some of that because I'd like to be more present. And frankly, doing my show has really helped me with that. I've had a few guests who've spoken right to that, most specifically Daryl McDaniels, DMC, from Run DMC. And I had something about the way he talked about shame. He really helped me screw my head on straight with that. And when I started the show, I'm a communicator and I always assume that the wisdom that's imparted on the show is for the listeners. But really, it's for me too. And
Yes.
so this show is allowing me to take some of that wisdom. And so when I emerge in my next phase, I would like it to be free of that guilt, free of thinking alcoholism is my fault, free of thinking I could have done it differently. Well, if I could have done it differently, I would have. And, I didn't. So, I don't know if I can ever embrace myself as an alcoholic. I didn't think it was all that cool, but I certainly would like to move forward without the identity of the guiltiest person on earth.
Yes. Wow. Kat, what does it mean to shine within to you?
Oh, well, when you see someone doing their thing, if it's even if it's someone's a bank teller, but their thing is line dancing and they do it and then you just see them turn on. For my sons, for my little guy, it's when he dances. For my big guy, it's when he plays video games. They are in their cups. And so, for me, connecting with people is really my thing. Doing the podcast, doing shows, that's really when I think I turn on and I live in that space. And so I love to see people doing their thing, whatever it is.
Yes, what lights you up? It's going to light you up inside and you'll be shining from the inside out, right?
What makes you shine?
Talking to people like you. You're so right. You reminded me of myself when you said that you do the podcast because you're learning for yourself as well. Same. I feel like
Yeah.
I'm in school, but things that I want to learn,
Yeah.
instead of the education system where like, oh, you're going to learn this, boring, boring, boring. I want to learn things like I also want to know what lights people up. What are they doing to help them stay sober? Or what are some of those tools that are being taught to others to help them stay sober? And just how are you being present in the moment? Like I want to know everything. I want to because then I learn. We're all one. And
Yes.
when we're all that with a collective consciousness, we're all gonna shine together.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I love this. Oh, well, where can our listeners go ahead and connect with you? Get on your YouTube channel to check out your podcast. Where can they find your podcast? All that good stuff.
So we are all the places, YouTube, because I'm a TV background, we shoot it like a TV show. Or lucky enough to have the Algonquin Hotel in Manhattan as our greatest sponsor. So we
Wow.
shoot there. You can check, let's see, who do I have this week? Don Lemon is on this week. You can
Oh, wow.
watch our podcast on YouTube and then listen to our podcast wherever you get your podcasts, right? So Spotify, Apple Podcasts, I think Audible might even have us. So wherever you get your podcasts, as people say. And one thing that I want to urge people to do is on our website, which is soberness.com, where you can watch everything as well. We have listener stories. And so those are 10-minute interviews. What you do is you fill out a little form on our website. It's 300 words or less. Tell me your story. And then we set up a time and we get together on Zoom and we have 10 minutes for you to tell me your story. And then if we have some time afterward, I ask you some questions. And that has been a really neat way to connect with our listeners. And I don't actually find that celebrities' stories are any more important than everybody else's stories. And, my legacy, my history is in celebrity interview, and that's why we do the show the way we do it. But the listener stories are really cool. People come out with stuff that, I mean, really knock me out. I mean, celebrities tell me stories that they feel comfortable telling, right? Because you have a different sort of consciousness when you're a celebrity about what the PR is going to look like. But people who don't have that same concern, they just tell it. Like my favorite was the first one I ever did. He knocked me out. The guy said he gave up alcohol so that he could deepen his relationship with LSD. And I was like, well, that's awesome. I didn't see that coming. And so anyway, so if people want to share their story and have a quick interview with me, please go to soberness.com and fill out one of our forms. We would love to talk to you. So that is how, and please, as you always say for Shine Within, please like, subscribe, do all the things. It really does help us.
Absolutely. Oh, I love it. And everything will be in the show notes for our listeners. But any
Great.
last
Thank
words
you.
you'd like to share?
I want to congratulate you on
Oh,
starting this show and rocking it out. And you can tell you really love it and it really comes through. I love the way you speak to your guests. You only seem to have people on that you really care about what they're saying. And that kind of excitement comes through without being frenetic and crazy. So, congratulations to you. I think you are well on your way.
oh, thank you. That means so much coming from you. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, I hope we talk again after your baby is born.
Oh, yes, next month. Fun
Ah,
times, fun times.
yes. Congratulations on all of it.
Thank you.